And we are live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the FNP Wargamers live chat. How is everybody?
Well, I'm doing fine, Jonathan. How are you doing tonight?
You know, I'm building Abaddon, so I'm doing amazingly.
You're building who? Crapidon?
Abaddon.
Abaddon.
Abaddon. Abaddon. It says the Brits.
A bad one, because, right, he's a bad one.
Yeah. 13 Crusades, yeah.
13 Crusades.
13 failures.
Hey, you know what they always say? 14th one's the charm.
Right. So, 15, then the 16.
Yeah, well, you know.
Ski's on. How you doing, Ski?
I am doing good. I am painting some regurgitated elves, getting my beast colors on.
What does that mean?
So these are deepkin. So they were swallowed by Slanesh, and then they pulled them back out, and yeah.
Is that their fluff?
Yeah. Slanesh went around during Age of Sigmar end times and devoured all the elves. And so Teclis and Tyrion basically captured Slanesh on this own little world, and they've been pulling the first elves that come back out of Slanesh is the Iden Deepkin.
Well, how did they water?
Is Slanesh real?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, just making sure. Thought it was fake.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, we still haven't seen a model or anything from Slanesh, whatever, or anything besides him being tortured, and then Slanesh like, oh, we're looking for him, you know. So,
who else we got on the chat tonight? Is John there? Is John? It's a 30-day painting challenge. You're supposed to be full-time painting on the channel.
If I'm being paid to, yes, but I got bills to pay.
I thought that's what the night job was for.
It doesn't pay as much as you think it does.
Ooh. And then we have two special guests tonight. We have two special guests from the FNPro team. We have Mr. Magnus the Red himself.
Yep, I'm here. I am. I feel like I finally have my voice back from yelling at everybody Saturday and Sunday.
And we have the greatest Adeptus Custodes player in the world, Colin.
Yeah, here.
So those guys just got back from Dallas GT where they did a phenomenal job. But
they did.
I think before we talk about Dallas, from what I heard, Ski has got some incredible rumors.
Look at TJ putting it up front because we're gonna do the Dallas chat, but he just forced you to put that up front because
he's got me intrigued. He said I would love it. Well, and I would be so enthusiastic. So I want to hear it.
So first we'll go with John with his rumor, and then we'll do mine.
It's not too much more of a rumor. We already know that since Jonathan leaked it last week. Oh, I should look at this camera, not that camera. Okay.
Correct.
Since Jonathan leaked it last week about Ynnari coming, and we all know that's coming, right?
Yeah.
In the White Dwarf. Well, my little birdie says that is just the beginning. And we should be seeing a more stable codex for them. But now it's going to be looking like next year. It's going to get pushed back just simply because of the timing of all their schedule releases this year. But it is amazing whatever it is that they're doing is what is passed to me. So it's just that what we're getting in May is just a preview of what is to come, and it's only going to be a sampling of what they've already been working on.
Mm-hmm. So is it like a mini dex or rule changes, or
it's a mini codex or mini index, whatever you want to call it, and it's simply gonna probably follow the same way that the Assassins came out. You know, we'll probably have about a half dozen stratagems, updated rules, and but nothing. You're not going to see new units. You're just going to see them clean up everything that has been building up in all the FAQs and the errata, and then give them some specific doodads.
So Soul Burst is going to be 3 command points. That'll be amazing.
I don't know. I could not get the rules and it was pretty much, hey, just wait because they're coming in May. So that's it. It's nothing major, but those Ynnari players are like, oh, we're about to go downhill. We're gonna suck. Hold off on that, man.
Yeah, and the Eldar players as a whole have to remember that it's pretty much Games Workshop's love child is the Eldar overall for over the decades of every rules and everything. So yeah.
I mean, I thought it was Space Marines.
No, that's their just here, have everything and make some money, you know? So.
But yeah, that's it. It's just a quick little blurb. We all knew that it was already coming out, but what is going to be in it, or the future of Ynnari, it's looking bright. It'll probably be my guess, based off of the snippets that she gave me, is that we're looking at new units, and which is the reason why they didn't want to release the codex yet, because they need to finish up all the units, get them mass produced, get them to the heavy metal team. And of course, Sisters of Battle will probably be out first. No, that's not a rumor, that's a guess.
Reset the clock.
Well, Squats will be out before Sisters.
No, didn't they say Sisters would be out in November of this year?
I don't know. My guess is yeah.
That was put out last year, I believe.
Okay.
So, but hey, anything could change, right?
Yep.
It's Games Workshop for you. So my rumor is I got this on Sunday and I shared it with John on Monday, and I've been looking at other sites, and a lot of different sites and different verbiage or somewhat the same have all been on the same warband on this rumor, and it's very intriguing. Now, salt is massively required, but it does make sense, doesn't it, John?
It really does. And okay. I'm not like trolling making sense. It makes sense.
So this is what was sent to me verbatim, and then we'll go from there. So Lionel Johnson, or the Lion, was mentioned coming in a faction starter box set as one of the playable sides. Both, quote, or parentheses, get ready to sit down, Dark Angels fans, parentheses. The other side may be an Imperial faction. If it is true, somebody obviously went traitor. The Dark Angels are already in a bad spot considering what went down in the Horus Heresy. That was it. That was sent to me, not even from like a website or anything, like on Sunday. So, and I've been looking around, and a lot of different sites have been saying the same thing in different ways. And so they're saying that everywhere I've read is it is a great possibility him coming in a starter set, kind of like they did with Gilliman. I mean, Gilliman was in like that 3-model box set. Mm-hmm. And so they're thinking about more starter sets. And they, I've been seeing, if you look at all the starter sets, box sets, they call them, you have your Eldar and Marines, you've got Necron and Admech, and these are great starter box sets. And so this Dark Angels Primarch with against another Imperial faction really is interesting. Like it does make sense too, especially with the Primaris, especially with the story arc, with all their secrets. There's a lot going on there.
Dude, Ski, I got goosebumps, man. Like my hair is standing up on my arm right now, and I got goosebumps.
Now, how would you feel if your chapter became, not theoretically, or not theoretically, like let's hypothesize real quick. If that box set comes out, you get Lion, the other faction, let's just say it's Primaris, another Primaris, because that's kind of what they've been going with, right? And you guys are fighting Primaris, how would that make you feel if you guys were the actual traitors and not the Primaris?
Oh, well, see, what had happened was no, but seriously, like when you start reading the Horus Heresy books, right?
Yep.
Gilliman was the one like, I'm going to start my own empire and be the new Imperium. So is Gilliman really the traitor? Or is because Lionel Johnson was like, no, we need to get back to Terra to protect Dad. So let's go.
But wasn't it Gilliman, Sanguinus, and Lion?
Yes, Sanguinius like put up for a little. He's like, wait a minute, no, I got to get the hell out of here. Gilliman, you're insane, dude.
So that's the rumor I've gotten, and like I said, I got it on on Sunday, not usually the time frame. And before I sent it to John, I was like, hey, I went and kind of did my research, and nothing was said until Monday.
So I got a question.
Yep.
We're talking Sunday, this past Sunday, right?
Yeah,
Like the 14th, right? Not like April 1st?
No, for the 14th.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah. So that is my big rumor. If it happens, great. I think it'd be really cool because it would change the narrative. It would change the tempo. And plus, we need another Primarch on the 40K good side. But technically, if he came, he would be another Chaos Primarch. So, hey, it worked.
Yeah.
Or is he still following his dad's last order, right? We don't know.
So,
because that means Dark Angels would have to get a new codex, and would it just be Adeptus? It'd be like something Adeptus Astartes Dark Angels, like no Imperium anymore.
You know, I would be very surprised, and they could do this, and I would really enjoy that if you had the Imperial Loyalist, like the Codex, following the Codex, like back in the day.
Yeah.
And you had your Blood Angels, your Dark Angels, and Space Wolves, which were separate because they don't follow that path really. I could see them doing, hey, here's the new Dark Angels. They are now a neutral-ish kind of do their own thing, like a new, like almost
like Black Shields.
Yeah.
John, you can look at the camera. Like Black Fields.
Yeah. I just think that'd be cool because then that gives everybody a different faction as a whole,
I'm just, if it's true, I will be so excited. If it's not true, well, I mean, hold on. So if that happens and, Lionel Johnson doesn't like the Primaris, I'm gonna be really pissed because I just got done painting a whole bunch of Primaris rooms.
Well, yeah, that's right.
It could be the fallen Primaris. I don't know. But wait, isn't the fluff that Lion's no longer in his, he's gone. He's not in his tomb anymore, right? Or no, Luther's gone and Lion's gone.
Luther's gone. Oh.
There, see?
There we go. It could be Luther with the Fallen, and Lionel Johnson comes with the Primaris and other Dark Angels. Like new Deathwing Terminators.
There you go. See?
Everyone's getting so excited, their cameras are getting blurry.
Primaris Deathwing Terminators.
Don't you say that. Don't you say that. I got 20 of them painted up. I don't need new Terminators.
Yeah.
So that
they die really well too. Damn it.
So then, can I go over some AOS stuff?
Yes.
And then we can get into the 40K Dallas, and I'll just sit here and be quiet after that. Because hey, I know 40K. I just don't play anymore. So, first off, I want to talk about the Masters. They moved the Masters location for the invitation. It's no longer going to be at the Citadel. It is going to be at the Great Wolf Lodge.
What?
And it will be controlled by the people and not by the Citadel because of issues with the heats and stuff, and the way the point system. So you have a place to stay.
Was it that bad?
Let's not get into the politics of it.
Yeah, they just moved it.
I love and appreciate everything that Games Workshop did at the Citadel for the heat.
Yes, I do too. It was great.
So hold on. I want to rewind that a little bit, Ski. So the Texas Masters is happening at the Great Wolf Lodge.
Yes, sir.
When is the first one happening?
January next year. The 20 invitationals. So we're doing the Masters all year.
Yeah.
I think the last official tournament will be after Wargamers Con in
Austin.
It's going to be Austin because you have Wargamers Con, and I think it's San Antonio.
Okay.
As Age of Sigmar, the last one will be in San Antonio, I believe.
Okay.
And then that's the cutoff, and then they'll go through the scorings, and then the top 20 people will get invitations to the Great Wolf Lodge, and they'll just basically go down the list, and so they get the top 20 Age of Sigmar players in Texas,
and they'll go.
Yep.
Oh man, I thought this was a public tournament because by then I'd probably have an Age of Sigmar army going.
I don't know. Now, don't quote me on this, and I'll have to ask the guys if they'll be the 20 top, but are they going to treat it and have another event at the same time for everybody else? I have
for the normies.
yeah.
So Ski, use your wisdom and power to maybe make that happen, because I could so go there and play and be like, guess what, honey? The girls get to go swim all day, and I can go play.
Exactly. So let me talk to Matt and the guys that have the big show guys for the Masters, and I'll see what's going on, and then yeah, I'll let you know on that aspect.
That is cool, man. But that's a great place to have it too.
Yeah. The other thing, I'm just gonna do my share screen and just go over some cool things that are coming out and talk to them real quick.
Sweet.
Let's see here. See if this works. Square soon. Let's do here.
Jonathan, stop picking your nose, dude.
I'm not picking my nose. I'm picking my Abaddon.
Hey, is that him in the bodysuit?
Who, Abaddon?
Yeah, because he's got like the black carapace and stuff.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
He's all just regular.
Okay, so do we need to click on Ski screen so it stops switching off of us?
Yep.
Let's see here. How's that? Does that work?
I see tree peoples.
Okay, so for the Underworlds players out there,
They're so pretty.
this is the Sylvanus faction that is coming out. If you haven't been up to date or watching the community site, some amazing models. I am very jealous of those models. They're very amazing looking models. You know, you've got your couple hand-to-hand guys, you got your ranged, and then you got your caster. Scroll down a little bit. Here's the dice and the sleeves for them. And then the one I can't wait for, here is the Overlords, the dwarf models for Underworlds. I really enjoy this kit because the fact that you get a little bit of everything of the army itself. You've got the rigger with the balloon pack. You've got the somewhat like an ether chemist type character up on the top right. You got a thunderer per se, I think, on the top left and the bottom right. And then you've got a regular, looks like a regular company troop guy on the bottom left. I can't wait to get that and paint it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So that's going to be coming with the cards for Night Vault. And here's the sleeves and the dice for that. Now, here's the cool thing that they're doing. And this is for people that don't want to get into the game, but will love the models and just want the models. And so I'm going to talk about this real quick because it depends on how they handle this price-wise. But they are coming out with the goblins, the undead, the Briar Queens, the casting Stormcast, it looks like, the Troll, Godswarm Hunt, the Zeech guys, the Eyes of the Nine. What I've been getting at is they're going to be coming out with just the models themselves without the cards. The problem I have with this, depending on pricing, is right now every set I think is $35 with the cards. How are they going to price these to match that? If they're going to stay at $35 for the models, then I'd rather just buy the kit with the cards and get the set and then just have a set, you know, the game on the side. If it's cheaper, great, because then I'll end up getting all the models. But those are the factions coming out. It looks like they might be adding more, or there is more. But yeah, that's it. We got the Fire Slayers coming out on Saturday. I'm going to end up getting the piece of terrain for sure. I love painting the terrain, the ones off. It's just so much fun. They did a really good job reformatting the dwarfs. I think it's going to be a deadly army. I just hopefully it doesn't slow down. Like the Beast of Chaos was a great thing they did with all the beastmen and stuff, but unfortunately there's a lot of weakness in them compared to the current meta for some reason. And
12 Nave said that the models separate from the cards were only $25.
Excellent. I didn't even see that. That's an awesome price. $25. If that's it, $10 off, I'm down. That's less than a character, and you're getting a box of minis basically.
Hey, Ski. As far as the Fire Slayers, I think, considering what they got, +1 wound across the board.
+1 wound with a lot of the things.
And then a better save too, from what I've heard.
To hit, I think. Or not hit. Range. They changed.
Yeah. So I mean, just on that note, I mean, giving a whole army one more wound across the board is huge.
They did take away some of the feel no pain. So there's one issue I've been reading is people don't think the one wound, giving you a wound and take away a feel no pain was worth it. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm orcs. I have Ard boys with a 4-up save with 2 wounds, with no Ren besides a big Choppa, and I don't think I have a shield. I could take a shield to give me a 6-up basically save on damage, but that's my option. But I don't get no feel no pain, and I think I do fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Fire Slayer. I just hope there's a lot of different things, mechanics you can do. The one issue I always, I'm not talking bad. I just think, but the prayers is awesome what they're doing prayers. The bad part is, it looks like it's kind of taking over spells, and they're not you can't counter prayers. There's nothing you can do to stop a prayer.
Well, and time they don't really have a caster, so they have to have something like Khorne, right?
Well, that's true. But like Skaven have prayers. Khorne has prayers. Now we're gonna have Fire Slayers are getting prayers. Overlords are probably getting prayers when they redo them. And it's their answer for not having a mage, and that's great. But I truly believe there has to be a way to counteract players, because I have one caster for orcs, right? I have no prayers. I have no aura buffs. I have, that's everybody else has those, and I take my one wizard. I'm like, cool, I'll unbind that one spell, and you have 4 wizards, and I have to be picky. But if I'm playing against a unit with prayers, and they're getting prayers off in a 2+, it's like, okay, like great, get a, it just.
But can they unbind in your phase? Prayers?
I don't think so.
So then, it's kind of even then, right? Just like thinking it from top level, right? Make it even. If I can't unbind you, you can't unbind me. We can both get our spells off.
True, but I think a lot of people are going to be looking at the prayer side. I have a feeling after more of these codex come out, more people are going to be taking the things with prayers because they can't be stopped versus spells.
Okay, makes sense.
I have my Foot of Gork. Natural casting cost of my Foot of Gork is a 10 out of a 2-sided dice. My Green Puke spell, the other one he casts, is a casting value of 8. Those are extremely high for spells.
Mm-hmm.
But they do some decent damage if they go off. But it's like, cool, I roll, a 10. They have to roll, 11 or 12. Or if you're Khorne, you're like, oh, I have 8 blood ties. I'm going to spend them all, or whatever the change is, and I'm going to automatically unbind it, and you just lost that great spell. Cool. Like, it's just, there's a little bit, I think, and I think there's a little bit of unbind or issues with the prayer aspect. Just a little. Maybe when they roll their roll for a prayer, if they roll something like a 6, maybe there's a negative or something. Like it goes up, but something happens. Just because they're praying so hard. Like if you're in battle and you have this dude with a freaking flag, or he's just a priest, and he walks up and he stops in the middle of a fight and he's just concentrating on prayer, some dude's gonna walk up and smack that dude, and he's not even gonna know it because he's too busy praying.
Yeah. Maybe like if you roll a 1, you take like D3 more wounds.
Just something. Just because make it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, just something, man. But I think it's gonna be great. Overall, I 100%. I think it's gonna be great. I like the direction that they're going, and I can't wait to see the new updates for the Overlords or Dispossessed or Free People or Iron Jaws and Bone Splitters, because that will be major depending on what they do with those 2 armies.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's all I got.
That it?
That is it for Age of Sigmar.
All right. Where are we moving next?
Let's talk about Dallas. These gents are on here. Let's talk about.
Yeah, we got a couple of guests here.
So, what are we talking about, Dallas? Are we talking about how Colin finished 5th? No, or
first, or just I mean, I can start talking about it.
Yeah. Why don't y'all tell us what list y'all brought and why you brought the list?
David, do you want to start or you want me to start?
Sure. Yours is. We'll save the best for last there, since. So I basically took a chaos list that was primarily Thousand Suns, but I had a couple nice little flares to it. So I was probably, I think, the only guy there with a Storm Eagle that had a bunch of Khorne Berserkers in it with Karn. And the rest of my army was a couple big, giant Zangor blobs with Aramons, some Demon Prince, and then I had the big Impossible Robe, Lord of Change, and a Bloodthirster of Khorne. And basically the army, focused on just having the Lord of Change be impossible to kill. And from there, I just could let the rest of the stuff operate. And for the most part, it worked pretty good.
So did you use it like a big distraction unit?
Yeah, because I could pretty much take the Lord of Change. So with the Impossible Robe, he has a 3-up invuln. You give him the Warlord trait, and it's -1 damage. And you basically shove him out right in front of everything, and everybody gets really concerned about it and starts shooting at it, obviously. And the next thing you know, you've dumped your whole army into it, and he's only maybe at like 10 wounds still. And here comes my Zangors, here comes everything else, and you're sitting there going, well, here come all the threats just coming across the board at you. So it's that's kind of what I saw happen. The other thing that was cool was the Lord of Change actually is really good against knights too, because I took the Baleful Sword on him, which is actually, I think it's AP -4 D6 damage, if I remember that off the top of my head right.
Jeez.
So you're basically wounding knights on 3s, and whatever gets through there is going to hurt pretty bad. So
I like the list composition, even though I used to play 40K, but I love the fact that it's what you're doing. You got demons that are from there, and then you got Khorne. I just love it. That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, the Berserkers, I think, probably were more of a distraction than anything. The Storm Eagle pulled its weight all tournament. I could pretty much just fly that around wherever I want, and because the Lord of Change was on the table, that was taking all the fire that would be going at the Storm Eagle. So when it finally was getting shot at, there was nowhere near the amount of threats to shoot at the Storm Eagle by the time they finally got to it.
So correct me on this, but I think I always talk about psychology in tabletop games and how to use units automatically will catch people's eye. There is a lot of veterans out there that know a little bit better, but for your natural regular guys out there, they don't understand, and they see that knight, they see that eagle, they see that demon, and it psychologically defeats your opponent 9 times out of 10 because they fall right into it. They're like, oh my God, look at that big nasty thing. I got to do something. Was that happening a lot?
Hey, real quick, you guys actually got a shout out from Jorge Nunez. He says, hey, from El Paso guys, you were great at Dallas, and it was fun grabbing a beer with you all Friday before the event.
Cool. Thanks, Jorge. Appreciate it.
Anyway, question. Continue.
Cool. Yeah, aside from that, I think the highlight of the event for me was I faced a Trip Night list with Canis Rex, and I think he had a couple gallants in there with it. And I cast Treasonous Inch on Canis Rex, and it went off. And so Canis Rex then turned to both of the knights next to him and basically just threw a haymaker into one of them. And so his knights started attacking his own knights. And so that was kind of a cool thing to have happen.
Just from the spell?
Yeah, just from the spell. So you treason them, and then you have to beat their leadership, but there's some reroll shenanigans that I have that let me either reroll one, or I can use Gaze of Fate and reroll both, and it gives me a much higher than just, okay, I've got to beat a 9. Well, I have some mechanics to try and beat it, and when it does work, it can basically win you the game.
That is amazing. I love it. I love it. Army against you. Take that. Hey, I got it happen instead of Khorne. You're punching Khorne as you're punching yourself in the face.
Yeah. I got a lot of practice with it against Colin. So
So, David, as a quick question. So your threat range. So you have a Storm Eagle, you have a Bloodthirster, right? And then the Lord of Change. And then
That's right.
That, how many Zangors did you have? 60, 90, or
60? I had two blobs of about 25 and then a blob of 10.
Okay.
And the 10 kind of served more as like a screening unit more than anything.
Okay.
That's
Wow. And so you could, I guess with Airman and everything, you could warp time the Zangors up to if you wanted to put more threat just in the front lines.
Oh, for sure. I actually used Dark Matter Crystal a lot because that works turn 1.
Okay.
And so I can put 25 of those Zangors basically into charge range, and they get a Brayhorn, so that gives them an 8-inch charge turn 1, which pretty much every game I would try to get off because otherwise the Zangors are just going to sit there and get, chewed up and shot. So
yeah, because when I was at my last tournament too, I got a big nice unit of 24 Zangor blobs warped up and everything like that, and I was just like, I forgot they could do that. So, that's good thinking, man. That's all.
Yeah, it works. I'm probably going to bring some more for Alamo, but I got to do some play testing with them.
Awesome. So how'd you wind up doing for the whole tournament?
So day 1 was rough because my first matchup was Cadians, and if you ever play Chaos and you go up against Cadians, it's not a good time. I mean, it's really they're re-rolling all failed hits, all failed wounds, and they've got about an hour-long shooting phase against you, and by the end of it, you're lucky if you have anything left. And that was pretty much my my round 1. So it kind of
the gun line, or was you running gun line with vehicles?
Yeah, it was gunline with vehicles. He had tons of guardsmen, and he had like plasma annihilators, battle cannons in there. Like a few tank commanders. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head. I might be misremembering it, but it hurt real bad. And thankfully, round 2, I was able to fight Katachan, and that was a little bit of a better matchup because he didn't have that same mechanic. And then round 3, I fought Necrons, and I had the game in hand, and I completely got tunnel vision and forgot about, I don't know how this happened, but I completely forgot about reanimation protocols.
Ooh.
And so I had killed all of the guy's wraiths, and I was about to finish up all of his destroyers. He had a big squad of destroyers, and I got it down to 1, and he had a Cryptek next to it. And with Karn, I got into battle and I split my attacks with Karn, getting greedy. And as a result, both survived. And then before Karn could swing a second time, he interrupts, and then the destroyers basically survive. Karn dies, and then the destroyers all get up next turn, and that was the end of that. So I went into day 2 like 1 and 2. Which was rough, and I just kind of said, hey, I'm going to try to just win 2 games, and I ended up winning both games really big, just one after the other. And so for me, that's probably my best. I mostly went 3 and 2 last year, and to go 3 and 2 this year, it was a little bit different because I'm winning the last 2 games versus I'm losing that. I'm 3 and 1 on the verge of 4 and 1. It just felt better coming out of it because I had to win 2 games in a row on the second day. So it just had that weird feeling of, just kind of being a little bit better result.
Well, needless to say, that is good going 3 and 2, and especially pulling out 2 wins on the last day, because usually that's pretty big, especially if you can leave on a winning streak, you feel a lot better than like, yeah, I lost my last game and I shouldn't have lost it or something of that nature. So.
Yeah, one of which was against Drukari, and I had not won a competitive match against Drukari in over a year or so. So, to win that last match like that was pretty rewarding.
That's awesome.
So
may not win it all, but it's always those small victories.
That's right.
So what do you think? Like, what's your biggest takeaway from the weekend as far as your list and where you kind of want to go with it?
So the list itself works really good. I have a dilemma now whether I want to try to stay within the Thousand Suns faction rules for ITC, and they decided, well, ITC obviously operates independently of what the Dallas guys were doing, but the timing on it was kind of rough for everybody because it was like 2 weeks before the event that they decided, well, we're going to make this change. And so there were probably a lot of folks that were trying to make up their mind, like, am I going to change my army to make sure that everything fits within their new faction rules, which is basically you have to be pure that faction. You can't have any other detachments of a different faction. And then there were folks who already had, like myself, who already had their list ready, and I just decided I'm not gonna change it up at the last minute. I'm just gonna stick with it. So now that that's happened, we know that the big FAQ is coming out very soon. You guys probably have some hints on some other stuff that might be coming out soon. That it sounds like the meta is going to change. We just had Chaos drop. TJ, you're probably really excited about that.
Actually, I am. I really want to paint my world eaters again, so I'm good.
Yeah. So the meta, I think, is going to shake up a lot going into the next tournaments, and then that's probably going to settle out for the rest of the year. So that's I'm just kind of waiting to see kind of what the official rules are that come out, and that'll kind of drive it. So it's kind of on the fence, getting to play test some things. The new Noctiglyph crown looks amazing, and that fits right in with my army. So if I can re-roll all my psychic tests or failed psychic tests, that'll be pretty awesome with 8 or 9 psychers on the board with Thousand Suns. So
yeah, that really will be. That is an amazing piece of terrain. I mean, the rules are incredible. So
yeah, the one other thing I was just going to say is I thought that the pro team actually did really, really well, because it wasn't just myself that was probably 1 and 2. I know that Mike actually dropped an early match. He just got a randomly tough matchup round 1, and that didn't work out for him. So I think there were a few of us that were kind of in rough shape after day 1. And we weren't the only ones. There were other folks there that were doing the same. And it kind of felt like the team kind of rallied day 2, and everybody just kind of really focused. We had a really good pep talk in the morning and just kind of said, okay, here's what we've got to do to make the best of day 2. And it just kind of all came together at the end. And, we kind of turned a frown upside down, I guess. So.
Dude, that's awesome. That makes me really happy. That's kind of why we created the team is to unite us and, give that little bit of morale boost, that we all need, especially when you're kind of down and out, So that's awesome, man. That's good to hear.
For sure.
I have to do that with Age of Sigmar. I talk to myself, talking myself up all the time. Got this.
Oh, you're so silly.
Skis number 1.
That piece of terrain. Do you guys pay points in 40K for your pieces of terrain?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. That's kind of odd, but okay.
Yeah. It's free for you. We know.
Well, it's free for the dedicated faction that comes for it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I think it's just because they want you to take the terrain because it fits in so well with every single army.
Yeah.
So, but 40K is kind of subjective. Can you imagine if they're like, oh, look at this. I'm just going to take a fire readout real quick, and so I can get like 3 last cannons. So that'll be fun.
Well, like the moon, the Gloomspite gets terrain. It's only for that faction.
Yep.
And you can only have 1. And so I was like, well, why can't they do it with 40K? And like, okay, here, Chaos, here's your portal. Here's, I don't know, something for IG or, that'd be kind of cool because then you guys have that different dynamic.
IG doesn't need anything else right
now. You put that lid back on that can of worms.
They've been slowly rolling that stuff out. The Noctilith crown, but then we had the Nurgle tree that came out, and then they even had the rules. I think for the Skull Throne now has 40K rules. So they're slowly, I think, just kind of giving each faction their own kind of unique fortification to bring.
Yeah. Yep. Because Eldar, they got theirs in the Harlequin Code.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That's right. With the webway.
One of the coolest pieces of terrain. I just don't think anyone's like, nah, I'm not going to use it. So.
Yeah, it's really cool sitting on the table.
Amazing. So I guess we'll go on to Colin and find out what Colin brought.
Yeah, Colin, what you got?
So what I brought to Dallas was Knights. Well, under the old ITC faction guidelines, now it'd be Faction Imperium, since it's 3 different factions. So what I brought was a triple Raven Knights. It was a Raven Castellan, obviously, because the thing's just too good not to take still. Along with 2 Crusaders, both with battle cannons, and the Ignore line of sight rocket pods, and then a Scion battalion, which it was really funny because all of my opponents were super worried about my Scions. They were always making sure that I couldn't deep strike behind them because they thought they were let out with plasma. They were pretty much just stripped bare Scions. So it was kind of amusing to hear that from my opponents after every game. And then I also had a Graya AdMech battalion that was just bare bones Rangers and engine seers. And the whole point of the Graya AdMech was 1, command points, and then 2, for the really good abilities they have. The Graya strat to just deny a psychic power and a 4+ is amazing. And I really wanted that in my list just so I could try to stop Eldar psychic powers like Jinx and Doom from killing my knights, because if I can keep those from happening, I know I can keep my knights alive really well in those matchups. And the Graya ability, where once you're slain, when a model's slain on a 6, they just come back to life with a wound lift. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. And I realized it's better than feeling of pain, because even if, like, say, like, your Tech Priest Engine Seer takes 6 wounds from a las cannon, it's slain, and then you only have to roll 1d6, and on a roll of a 6, it comes back to life.
So you're not taking, like, 5d6 rolls from the damage, you know?
So like, with Disgusting Resilient, you'd have to roll 5 d6, roll 5+, but with the Graya AdMech, you only have to do 1 roll of a d6, which it only mattered in like 2 of my matchups. The one game when I was playing Tau, I tied him, and that actually came into effect, which helped me keep me from losing that match.
Oh, wow.
A bad play at the very end. And he was like, my opponent asked to look at the rule. So I explained it badly to him, but once I showed him the rule, he's like, okay, yeah, that's how it works. But yeah, that was a really crazy game. I actually did not play against an Imperial army all weekend. I played only against Xenos and Chaos.
Wow.
My first game was against Necrons. It was a really good Necron player. He actually came to the Desperate Allies GT that David and I went to back in March. He brought probably the best Necron list you can bring, like 3 Doom Scythes, 3 Doomsday Arcs, 30 Immortals, a big blob of Tomb Blades. I knew I had to play carefully against, because, the Doom Scythes can do that strat where they pick a point, and all models within 3 inches of that point take 3d3 mortal wounds.
Yeah.
So if you got that off of my knights, all 2 or 3 of them, you'd be really bad news. But thankfully, I spread them out far enough to where you couldn't do that. And he got to go first, and I was kind of worried about that, because his Doomsday Arcs plus the Night Scythes, or the Doom Scythes, could really hurt my knights. But he failed to really do enough damage to hurt me. My Castellan just walked up, and I did order companions on it, and it took out 2.5 of the Doom Scythes on its own. So
Awesome.
I had really good luck in that game. Then it just kind of came down to where David had the Tomb Blades kind of come back, or the Tomb Blades and Destroyers kind of come back on him. My opponent just really flubbed all his armor save rolls, and he lost all the Tomb Blades first turn. And after that, it was just kind of grinding it out. But he went on to go 4-1, so he's a really good player, and we had an awesome game. And then after that, I got to play Tau twice. That was fun.
Twice in a row?
Yeah, twice in a row. I played Tau round 2 and round 3, and it was pretty much the same list with the 3 Riptides, 30 drones, the pass-off wounds, and Fire Start Marksman. So that was tough to deal with, because both of those matchups were Dawn of War style deployments, and that means that Tau can get to my knights first turn, and I just can't stop it. And so those were tough uphill battles. But thankfully, with the Nova style terrain, the walls in the center of the table are taller than knights are. So I was able to use my advantage to kind of hide my knights from the Tau.
Peekaboo.
Yeah.
Yeah, the walls were the walls were tall enough to actually hide my Storm Eagle behind, just to give you an idea of how tall they were.
How was the terrain there?
So it's not. I'll say it's not the prettiest terrain, but it's definitely functional for a tournament, and you can definitely tell the organizers put effort into working on them, and it definitely served a good purpose for the GT. Every table had pretty much the same layout with either the big L-shaped walls in the center or these two giant Mayan-style pyramids that they called ziggurats in the center. So the nice thing about Dallas was that you pretty much knew what you were getting every table, so you could plan for that, and you wouldn't get screwed over by terrain for your army. But there were like 5 tables that they did this random layout in the center where they had 2 giant L-shaped walls that kind of formed like a rectangle that had been cut in half, and then another giant wall diagonally through those 2 rectangles. So you basically couldn't see anything on the table. One of our other teammates, Mike, actually had to play on that table 3 times. So he just couldn't shoot anything all game.
That's rough.
Yeah, especially when he's facing like assault armies that can get to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a one-sided game.
Yeah, I was like, man, my Death Guard would just love that, because I usually bring 100 Poxwalkers, Typhus, Surgeon, the works, and I have one thing that can shoot my whole army. It's a bolt pistol, and then I'm just walking up, pretty much absorbing wounds until I get there. But with that, that'd be great.
Yeah, Eric actually played Chris on one of those tables with his Gene Stealer cult against his sisters, and Eric could pretty much come up right next to him and not get touched at all before getting into a combat with his sisters. So it was just really bad.
That's rough. That's a tough pill to swallow too, especially if it's a random table and then you got that one the 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
Seemed like he was a good sport about it.
Yeah, Chris is always a good sport about it. His dice rolls don't help him at all.
Yeah. I was gonna say also too, guys. I've seen y'all's armies. Like Colin's Knights are like Japanese style. They're beautiful. And David, his Lord of Change, I've seen that, and then his his Bloodthirster he painted was absolutely magnificent too. So their armies are spectacular to look at, as well as they are great players. So, which is very good.
Thank you, TJ. Yeah,
thanks.
That's something I've really tried to get into more recently, is really bringing my army standard up, because it really elevates your game and how enjoyable it is. Because you play with really well painted armies, it just really makes the game a whole lot more fun, in my opinion.
And I'm glad you brought that up as an outsider. We've been talking about that for weeks, literally, about, hey, step up your game, paint your armies. You'll have more respect for your game and your own people. It helps the whole environment.
Invested in it too, because you've put work in the models. You want them to do well on the tabletop.
Yep, it's better than you just got some gray plastic that you rushed the night before. And you're like, oh, I got the best unit now. But when you actually spend time on this unit and you've had it in your face for hours, you're like, man, I need to do better. I don't want that to die. So yeah, definitely. It definitely. I mean, people don't think, but it definitely plays a bit in the tournament for sure.
Mm-hmm. And then to follow up on my day 2, the third game I played on day 1, I tied. It was my only tie/loss, was against the second Tau player. He played phenomenally. I honestly thought I was going to lose it until the point that I fired my Volcano Lance at his Riptide, and I lost 4 wounds to it. He rolled 4 1s on his Savior Protocol saves. So instead of him passing off the 4 wounds to his drones, his Riptide took 24 wounds from the Volcano Lance. And at that point, we were like, well, damn, the game changed. And I was able to keep me in it at that point because of that. And we both had, it was both our games to lose. I think it had worn on us, but they had worn on us at that point. And we both made some mistakes at the very end that if we had not made those mistakes, either one of us could have taken the game. I forgot to move one of my units up a turn before, so where on the last turn I gotten 1 extra point for holding more objectives, which would have won me the game. And And then he did the same thing where if he had been able to finish off that one, if he had kept his one other unit alive to try to finish off my second engine seer, he, instead of it not dying, he could have finished it off in 1-2, but it didn't work out. We both tied, and it was funny because after we both tied, we didn't drop all because of that. So that was kind of interesting. And then moving on to day 2, I faced probably the coolest army I thought that was there at the GT. It was a pure Khorne demon army. He had 2 bloodthirsters with the big axe, a demon prince, a bloodmaster, and then 120 bloodletters.
Jesus Christ!
And I don't know. They actually took a picture of our game, and you can just see the screen with my rangers hiding in a corner, and this huge wave of red just coming at them. I'm like, Jesus, this is gonna be bad if they get into me. But thankfully, I got to kill one of the bloodthirsters before it even got into combat. And thankfully, he even though he got one of the other thirster, one of my knights, I had sanctuary on that night, so I was able to save some of the wounds that he did with the axe, and I was able to keep it alive before he could kill me. And basically, that was what allowed me to win the game right there.
Because I saw that game online, because I was going through the pictures. I was like, I sent it in chat. I was like, I don't think it's looking good for you, Colin. Because that was a huge wave of bloodletters.
No, listen, man. The bloodletters kept getting extra attacks and wounding on 5s and 6s because of the he hit Scarbrand too on top of the 2 bloodthirsters, and Scarbrand was giving them all +1 to hit, so all their 6s to hit were causing additional attacks, and then their 6s and they were only winning on 5s and 6s, and the 6s were all 2 damage, and I was like, geez, this is really starting to add up. But thankfully I was able to pull it out. And then last game was against Orcs with the typical 120 boys, the big 25 Ludabomb, and he actually had mech guns, which was a little surprising because I hadn't seen a whole lot of mech guns recently, and then a battle wagon filled with characters. So that was rough because he got his war boss with the relic power claw and the +1 damage warlord trait, so he's hitting and wounding on 2s with full rerolls and a flat 4 damage weapon. So it was able to get into my knights before I could finish him off, and it pretty much, I saved the Castellan of I can't remember. I think I only had I think he did a full 20 wounds to my Castellan in one go, and I was like, geez, that's not good. But thankfully I was able to kill it and fighting back before it could finish me off with fighting twice. And then from there, it was just trying to wear me down, and then me trying to clear out as many boys as I could. The one thing I did to make myself not as vulnerable in the orc matchup, which I know the Ludas can just, if they go off and roll that 3 for the number of shots of their death guns, they can just tear knights apart. But I figured out a way before the GT to make sure that all my knights would always have a 3-up save against Ludas. So I made one of my knights have the 2-up armor save relic. I made my Castellan have the ignore -1 warlord trait, the Raven specific one, with AP -1 weapons. And then I made my other Crusader have the Ion Bulwark warlord trait, so I could just rotate Ion Shields on that one to have a 3+ as well. So I was rolling worse than a 3-up against his Luda, which helped out a lot.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
What was the matchup you didn't want to face against?
So it's funny you ask, because there was a couple of those the matchups.
All of them.
Yeah. The matchups I definitely didn't want to face. I knew that with the terrain setup, knights were going to be popular because there wasn't any boxes that people could hide in, so knights could pretty much get wherever they wanted to. Plus, with the big walls in the center, some shooting armies would have a hard time dealing with knights before they could get in their face. So the other knight armies that were there were the ones I really didn't want to face, specifically the ones that were Castellan plus triple gallants, because if they just could get across the field and get into my knights, I would lose because I was all shooting and they and they were all close combat.
Yeah.
But thankfully, I didn't have to face any of those. Those were definitely my worst matchups. I was planning to face the plane list, the 7 Eldar plane list, but I didn't get to face it. It was funny because Philip ended up getting there, and I told him he was lucky he didn't face me because every time we practiced playing our list against each other, I always beat his planes.
Oh wow! So it comes down to matchups.
Mm-hmm. It really does. Something I've really kind of started to learn this past year is that matchups are a huge part in how well you do in a GT, because you could, even though that you could have some armies there at the GT that your army would just flat out lose against, if you never play them, then you don't have to worry about them. Yeah. Which is a big reason why, even though you don't think your army might be the best overall and it has some weaknesses, you should still not let that discourage you from taking it, because there's still a huge chance that you don't even face that army, or it doesn't even show up to the tournament. So you should still go and compete and do the best you can.
Yeah. That's true.
Okay. Hey, David.
Hey.
Okay, make sure you're still there.
So, I am.
Okay. So you said you're going to go to probably Pure. You might go to Pure Thousand Suns.
Yes, I'm thinking about it.
Okay. If you do, I think I don't know if they're still on here, but we got some people that are. I know one person in particular is working on a Thousand Suns army.
Uh-huh.
And I know he's working towards using Rubric Marines a little bit, but more of the Scarab Occult Terminators. Is that what they're called, right?
Yep.
What are your thoughts on those? Is that something that you would consider using?
So Rubric Marines, I think it's kind of, my answer isn't going to make sense because the guy who won Dallas won it with Rubric Marines. Right. But I think his list is kind of one of those cases of like, don't try this at home, kids. Like you got Matthew Ali is without a doubt one of the best players in Warhammer right now, like or 40K. I mean, he was top 8 at LVO. The dude is really good at this game. And that list, everybody was pretty much laughing at the fact that list was just winning round after round, and we were like, all right, this is the round he's not, like he's going to drop this match for sure. And like day 2, it got towards the end and everybody was like, it's happening. And, he's on the verge of winning the whole thing. So, so like, just congrats to him on that. That was really awesome. But I would not go with rubrics. In fact, I did my best to make it work. I took a rubric list to Arkansas and I proceeded to face some really tough matchups. And kind of what Colin was saying is you have to be as best prepared against your worst matchups as you can be, because you are eventually going to face them. And, maybe you only win 1 out of those 5 matchups when you go to a tournament, but that one, it might be the only one you need to go 5-0 and win it. The Terminators, on the other hand, I think are pretty viable right now. There was another guy, Vince Arroyo from, I think, El Paso.
Yeah.
He was running a bunch of them in there, and he actually did a cool thing that I didn't even think of using, which was the dark matter crystal with his Terminators. They actually have a stream of the game, but what he was able to do is basically bring them up, and he got them in range, buffed them, put them in cover. So he hid them off in the corner so that if he didn't go first, they're off in the corner. You can't see them. They're going to be okay. But now you use dark matter crystal turn 1, put them where you need it, and away you go. And, they have bolter drill, so you're getting 4 shots out of each one. It's those are AP2 bolters, throw Veterans of the Long War on it, and, that's going to mess some stuff up. So I think I don't, for the list that I run mostly assault heavy with Zangors. And I tried a few Terminators at one point, and I found that I could summon a squad of pink horrors for an effective 30-inch threat range, because you have 12 inches that they come in, and I can summon them if I need it, or I could summon flamers if I need it, and just kind of set those points aside. And I found that probably worked a little bit better for the same role that the Terminators were mostly playing. But everybody's got a different use for them in their armies. But I think the Terminators are definitely the more viable of the two.
Okay. Awesome. And real quick before we, if anybody's got more questions, just ask. You have a podcast, right?
I do, and I'm actually working on an interview with Mr. Ali himself for this week. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. Everybody on the Thousand Suns site was pretty excited to see that he won, and they kind of want to know how he did it. So,
awesome. Anybody have any questions?
No. I mean that was pretty cool. I mean I'm glad you guys enjoyed yourself.
Yeah,
and you did well.
It was a really fun tournament. Just to kind of go in a little bit about the event itself. It grew almost 50% from last year, which was crazy awesome to see the Texas GT scene just exploding. And they did a really good job dealing with and it was really well prepared overall, and it was a really fun event overall. And I think everyone there pretty enjoyed it really well. One of the cool things they had food on site at the convention center they had it at, and it wasn't like the typical overpriced food you would expect. It was actually well priced, and it was pretty good.
Awesome.
That's cool. Yeah, I know LVO is rough.
Yeah.
Here's
Yeah,
some
we're
chicken
heading
nuggets.
out to.
Give me all your money.
Colin and I are heading out to the Bay Area Open here in May. It's actually the weekend right after the Alamo GT, and I expect that it's probably going to be about the same in terms of price for food and everything.
Dang, y'all going to the Bay Area?
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
Oh, that is amazing. I really want to do that. So I'd like to go to that and maybe the SoCal Open. I heard the SoCal Open's pretty cool too as well. You went last year, right, Colin?
Yeah, I did. That event was hands down my favorite last year.
Really?
The weather was beautiful. The setup was amazing. They had a ton of different vendors there, like the Magnet Baron, Crystal Fortress, the guy with those crystal cases. Cases. Yeah, they were there, and they were giving like show specials and all that. Awesome. Like it was like this race park with like a Flash Fairground place that they had a hall for the GTN, and it was like right next to the ocean. It was really cool to see. The weather was phenomenal. The food was great. And every one of my opponents was fantastic. It was such a well done event. I really enjoyed it.
Because I was looking at pictures of that event, and it looks like in between your tables you have like 20 feet. So there's no like accidentally bumping into someone or anything.
Yeah,
just plenty of room.
Yeah, so like Dallas, I think one of Dallas's only issues was space, which, I mean, having to find enough space for 60, 70 tables for Warhammer, plus the other events they were having going on, plus vendor space and everything else was tough to do. But like SoCal, it was like, think of like one or two of the halls of George R. Brown here in Houston. That was the space they were working with, like Hall A and B. That's how much space they had. Like,
oh my God.
I could, it almost felt like we were almost in our own room, like playing a 40K game, just me and my opponent. We had so much space from the next table over. Like that's how nice it was. Like we could freely walk around the table, and the next guy was like the next table is over like 10 feet at least. So like we didn't have to worry about bumping into anyone whatsoever.
That's cool.
Plenty of room to walk around and everything, and it was well ventilated too, so that was nice. So we didn't have to worry about it getting hot.
Ugh.
Oh man.
Yeah, the one thing that's pretty cool is we're seeing all of the events kind of from last year have grown a lot. It's not just, the like SoCal or LVO, even the Texas events themselves. I mean, Colin mentioned Dallas growing to they had over 120 people on the roster. So
that's too.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody, I was talking to somebody, I think it was last week, and it could have been one of these guys. The ITC has grown to like 12,000 participants in the U.S.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, it's getting so big, especially as they are getting a little bit more organized, moving towards that esports style thing. And the 8th edition is so much easier for people to get into, not just just to play, but build and paint and all that jazz with all these awesome kits. And I mean, I think those numbers are going to keep climbing. And I think tournament organizers like myself and Alan and Bruce up there in Dallas, we have to start taking into account that there are a lot of people that want to come to these events. So we need to start expanding.
Yeah, you're right, John. And it's not just number of people that are increasing at events. It's also the number of events themselves. I remember listening on one of the Frontline Gaming podcasts that in February this year, they had 40% more events in February than last February.
Jeez.
And that's like right after LVO 2, which is a crazy growth.
Well, and it's really good for, I think, good for business too, because small businesses, man, they are probably benefiting. Like right now, we've got for Warzone Houston 6 sponsors besides local game stores, but 6 corporate sponsors, and we're still waiting to hear back from some others. And it's really cool to see that these companies are willing to support even the smaller events. We're not LVO or Nova size or anything like that, but and it comes from not because we're holding an event, it's because we're getting so many more people.
Yep.
Like this year, we're adding another 50 some odd people, and I mean next year we're gonna outgrow it. I mean we're already really outgrown it now. We could have had a bigger space, but it's really a good time to be in the hobby.
Mm-hmm.
It's really. I was just going to say it's really cool what Texas has done, or John, with you and the guys from Dallas and Austin, how you've all just kind of worked together and kind of got this like Texas circuit going. And I think that kind of gets a lot of folks kind of interested in going to each of the different tournaments and making sure that they actually, hit at least the Austin, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio kind of ring of majors there that we have through the summer.
Well, and I don't think it was in response to us. I think it was just done separately. But like Ski was talking about, they've got the Texas Masters, which is doing the same thing, but with AOS or Age of Sigmar, but they have a little bit more backing through Games Workshop. Not like tons of prize support or anything like that, but they've got support, and I think that shows how awesome it is for all these different conventions. Instead of trying to one up each other, we're trying to grow not only our own place, but help support each other to keep growing this community, this hobby.
Which then brings to, like, I always like to remind, like, the survey just came out from Games Workshop. If people do the surveys and are honest and actually articulate good information, not bag on them or put together a good response to these questions that they ask you, they will read them and they will respond better to those than, oh my God, everything sucks. Like it doesn't work that way, And this survey, I did the survey and I ran through it and I'm like, oh my God, they really thought about things, and they're going to use it. I remember last year's.
It's interesting you bring that up, because on the Thousand Suns site that we have, when they announced that they were going to do that survey, we immediately started like a sticky thread on we basically were creating our wish list of all the things that continually come up, like we want this, or this would be a great thing, or they need to fix this or make these things viable. And what we did after that had sat up there for 2 weeks and they finally released the survey is we just formatted it so that when you get to the very end of the survey and it says, hey, is there anything else you want to know? We have this nice copy paste section of text that you can go, okay, here you go. And it's written to be a little bit more, like, hey, these are some things that would really help Thousand Suns. And then you just kind of paste that in there and then, add anything else you want to add to it, that kind of thing. So we might be gaming the system a little, but yeah.
But hopefully they don't look at that, because this could go in a negative way for you guys. If you look at the glass half empty, is they could look at those and go, oh my God, it's a bot.
Yeah, or throw them out. Yeah. We last year, actually, we did a community survey similar to this. And this is when the design team was just saying, hey, if you have feedback, you can send it to us. And so we just polled the whole community. And I think we got up to about 300 something responses from the just Thousand Suns players.
That's amazing.
Just things about the codex, and we sent it over to them. So I don't know whether any of the rule changes we saw, like the point drops or things like that, were at all related to it, but we're trying. So
and that brings up Games Workshop, so their survey. And so I want to stress to people that go to events, instead of being the negative Nancy's to things because you personally don't like something, look at it in a bigger picture, come up with a good way of responding, send a very intelligent response to the organizers, and they can build off of that. It's the negative that they're not going to respond. People don't respond to negative as it is. They get defensive and they're like, okay, I'm not listening to that guy because he's just complaining. There's nothing to back it up in a way of a good conversation. And as a community, the more you put it out there and articulate your concerns, things can change better. It will change. So.
Good way to put it, Ski.
It's you got to look at the glass half full instead of half empty. You have to. Because you want your tournaments that you guys play in. You guys are, the GT guys, man. I'm just this lonely Age of Sigmar dude, and you guys want to go to these tournaments going, man, they really thought of everything. They really pulled out the rules right. This is finally working. Oh wait, this needs a tweak. Let's get together, get a good email. And the community drives the events. And the people, I don't think they're losing sight of that in certain aspects. So yeah.
Wait, who's losing sight of that?
The community. Some of the community.
Okay, I was gonna say, GW has definitely gone balls to the wall with, listening to us now.
Oh yeah, hands down. We might not always get what we want, obviously, but
but that's wish listing though,
Oh yeah, hands down. Hey, I still haven't seen a new Ragnar model, and I've been asking for that every time anything comes up. I always tell them, hey, where's my Ragnar Blackmane model? I still got the old metal model that looks derpy as derp,
Hey, Colin. Is Colin still?
He looks like he's frozen in time at the
moment. Good picture of him smiling.
Yeah.
It looks like it's going slow. Okay. Well, I'll hold off on the Colin comment until he jumps back on.
Man, that's really exciting though, man. Like just a little bit. I think it sums it up best as the players really in 40K now is we love the game and we're trying to go and have fun when we play the game. I really honestly believe, so this is out to anyone out there who's like, man, I don't want to go play in a tournament. There's going to be a lot of jackasses there and a lot of that. I think the majority of the people there
the
are not like that anymore. They want to go. We want to have fun. We're paying for events. We're paying to leave, and go to these places. So if you're scared to try an event, go to maybe a local one in your town and just test it out, especially the big GTs. The GTs, you get a different aspect of players because a lot of people are paying money and a lot of people are traveling. So their intentions behind a lot is a little different. Sometimes your local gaming tournaments at a local shop, there can be kind of those bad apples or maybe, but it's becoming smaller and smaller of those people because everyone else is like, I love this hobby. And when people start whining and complaining about it, they're just kind of like, yeah, you can stop talking about it now because we don't want to hear it. We're going to talk about it favorably. And a lot of those people that do naysayers and have a bad attitude, they really stop coming to those places because no one agrees with them. They're trying to get a perspective of like, oh man, I hate GW. It's so high on prices. And everyone's like, man, I love the hobby. The models are great. You know, it's my hobby. I'm going to play it. I'm going to love it.
Dude, the models are phenomenal.
I know, but when you don't get that whole let's all hate on it like the internet and it's really people talking about it, then I think it changes the aspect of people going there too.
Well, yeah, it's interesting you say that, TJ, because the thing that I noticed, like I started competitive play probably less than a year ago or about a year ago. So I'm kind of new to it, and I started just playing at GW stores like every Saturday, just hanging out, having a good time, and then last year just finally decided to start going to tournaments. I was actually really surprised by the events not being quite as intense as a lot of times when you read about them. They sound like they're a lot more intense than they actually are. It's actually just you're having a good time. You're just playing Warhammer, and most of the other guys that are there, they're just trying to do the same. They're just trying to have a good game. They're getting 5 full, 2,000 point 40K games in 2 days. And you want to win, but I'm here to have fun first. And the winning aspect of it, I think, comes from a lot of folks that just kind of like I'm seeing a lot more that it's a lot more just armchairing on the internet of, hey, this list did really good, so therefore it's like this, this is, I just have to take this list and I'll go win, that kind of thing. And it's like, well, maybe that guy hasn't gone to a tournament or something like that. So
yeah. Well, we've been seeing the different armies winning now. Like before, I will have to say in the past, it was the same over and over and over. But now, even in Age of Sigmar, there's things getting blown out. Like you have your top tier armies. Like these top 10 will always do really well, played well. But any one of those could win. And Age of Sigmar is the same way. Like you have these great factions and armies, but then all of a sudden you have a Flesh Eater Court army that's old edition win LVO like out of nowhere. Like that's a big deal.
Yeah. And like what David was talking about, like the first tournament I ever played in was like 1999 at the Dallas Grand Tournament. So I'm just going to show my age here. But
Grandpa
tournament, I fell in love with the tournament scene back in that day, like in 3rd edition and other things, because when I went there, everyone there wanted to play at a GT sponsored events by Games Workshop, but everyone had like it was kind of different back then because like you didn't have to really question because it was about the hobby, because everyone had fully painted armies. Like back then the scoring system was definitely different, because if you didn't have a painted army and you didn't do well on sportsmanship, there would be no way in the world you could win overall or even best general.
Yep, that is true. I remember those days.
So it promoted more of the hobby, and I think 7th edition was so like just 7th edition was list and everything were really bad, and I think it was like you had those armies that were like, oh, you have Tau and Eldar, you're going to beat me. There's no point for me even to put my army on the table. And then when 8th edition dropped,
Colin's back, by the way.
Yeah, he is.
Colin.
Sorry about that. My phone died.
Oh,
it's all right.
No problem. But I think really since 8th edition dropped, the tournament scene has changed, as well as a lot of the players and the players' mentality. Because not only is, the ITC came out with the player's handbook, the code of conduct, and a lot of people were already playing like that. So they're like, finally, it's something listed. We're good. They brought out chess clocks, and I think chess clocks are actually a good thing. I bought a chess clock this week, so I'm not a top player, but I want to get used to using a chess clock because I feel it's more fair for me and my opponent if we both have the same amount of time, even though usually when I play, I could probably complete my 6 rounds in 30 minutes because I always screw up or do something stupid. But I just want to make sure that if I'm playing a guy, then I'm not taking up too much time. He's not taking up too much time. And then, and just the fact now, the code of conduct, everything, ITC has great missions. Most of the people that are running the events are players themselves, so they know what players want to do. So I think really when it comes down to it, the tournament scene has changed and it's going to grow. I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon because the meta is forever shifting. We have new stuff coming out. I mean, the Chaos, the Vigilus Ablaze came out, and that's going to change the meta. Gene Stealer's Cult came out. That changed the meta. And then who knows what this Yunari little thing in White Dwarf may do to the meta. Same thing with Assassins. We really haven't seen a major, I don't Well, did Dallas allow assassins or not?
Yeah, Dallas had allowed assassins.
Okay, so that's another thing you have to think of in your army now. So I think just in general the meta is shifting. It's forever shifting, which makes for a great competitive scene to where it's not like, well, I have to take knights and that's all I can take because if I don't take knights, I'm gonna lose automatically. It's like, no, I mean, at Dallas we had a 1,000 Sun player win with Scarab Occult Terminators with a very quirky list, but it's Matthew Ali is a great player, and so you're going to get that from him because he is a great player and knows how to use it.
Well, so, and it's something you don't see often. So people, when you don't see it and you put it on the table, and people are like, "Oh, I don't know. What do I do now? I'm not used to that."
Yep.
And when you have a good player figure something like that out, it's amazing.
And plus with 1,000 Suns too. Now, sorry, David, I'm not really familiar with 1,000 Suns, but I do know this. Unless I'm shooting a 2 damage weapon, right? You get a +1 on your save, even on a Terminators and everything.
Yeah, Terminators and Rubrics. Those are the main models with all his dust.
Yeah. So in the SN Battle Reports, the last guy I played was playing 1,000 Suns, and he had Scarab Occult Terminators, and he dropped them in a piece of terrain, so they had another +1.
Yeah.
And I even shot at normal Rubric Marines with I shot 30 bolters. No, hold on. 28 bolters. And then 28 bolters, re-rolling all failed to hits. And then, wounding on 4s. So, I got, average about 12 wounds. And because he had a 2-up save, I think I killed off 2.
Yeah.
Out of a squad of 5, and I'm just like,
I played Tao at Arkansas, and he had 6 broadsides. Mm-hmm. And the broadsides could hit, they ignore line of sight. And so I kind of splashed against his army and kind of bounced off, really, because he had tons of fire warriors as well. So I couldn't really charge him with the Zangors I did have. And so I had so many Rubric Marines that I was basically able to hide the Rubric Marines out of line of sight for the whole game and pin him in his corner. And I ended up winning that game by 1 point, because at the very end, I was going second, and I was able to run out for I think it's the ground control mission where you control each objectives. And so I scored 4 points on that last turn, just advancing my rubrics out to each objective that I could. And they took like 3 or 4 rounds of just broadsides, just trying to kill him. And, I know my opponent was laughing because he was like, those things just weren't dying. So
that's amazing.
It's just great to see, because I don't think you're going to see any more like this list wins it all. Each GT is going to give you something different because the player community and the player base. So, it's fun. I'm getting pumped for Alamo. I know the rest of y'all guys are too, because I think everyone here except for Ski, because Ski doesn't want to play his Space Wolves anymore, which he should, but we'll get on that another subject. But I think everyone here is going to Alamo, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Nope.
Oh yeah.
Going to Alamo? No Alamo, really? Are you serious?
Yeah.
But you're painting an army in 30 days. I thought that's the army that's going to Alamo.
No. I mean, I had to talk to my boss.
Oh, okay.
I don't want to leave the store shorthanded that weekend. So depending on what ends up happening, I could go, but I'm not planning on it.
Okay. So this 30-day challenge for your army is just because you need to get an army to be able to play on the channel, correct?
Well, plus nobody said they're going to kick me off, but, I got to kind of have an army to play. So it's kind of like a penance thing. So I'm trying to get this to like a tier 2 level for me.
Okay.
And then in May, I'll be spending like about the first 3 weeks of May going in and elevating these guys to the next level.
Okay.
Yeah.
So mainly so I can go to Desert Rat in El Paso.
Okay.
And also so I can go to Wargames Con.
Yeah.
I would like to go to Alamo because I did have a good time last year at Alamo, even though I lost 4 games. I still had a good time. So
That's what happens when you take an LVO list 4 months later, man. It doesn't work out as well.
The meta doesn't hold up.
no, it did not hold up. Well, that army that I was operating on required me to go first. And I mean, really to go first to maximize. And all 5 games, I did not go first.
Ooh.
Oh.
So, yeah, I was pretty much, flopping there in the wind. So I paid for it. It was high risk, high reward.
I love it. He said flopping in the wind.
Yep.
Amazing.
Great.
So, so Colin and David, are y'all planning on taking something a little different from Alamo? Are we doing some stuff, or what do y'all?
Well, you don't have to reveal it.
Yeah,
but...
we don't have to reveal it. We just kind of know if y'all are like, oh, I'm going to take my same list, or is it like, I want to try something new?
Well, I don't think there's any mystery. Like I'm going to be running Thousand Suns in some shape or form. Like that's my army right now. So I'm definitely thinking I'm going to be bringing one of those Noctilith crowns, because not being able to re-roll psychic tests sucked. But that for 100 points, that thing just gives my whole army. I can just re-roll psychic tests nearby it. I mean, yes, I'm taking one of them. But other than that, I'm probably adding more Zangors and maybe just kind of doing some things. I'm thinking about maybe a Mutalith in there. Maybe, this is kind of crazy talk, but I'm thinking like a Hellbrute possibly, and just some weird things that might just kind of add a little bit of a different element to the list. So,
Hellbrute.
Yeah. So with Thousand Suns, you can actually spend a command point, and I can have a AP2 heavy bolter on my Hellbrute, which is kind of cool. And then I realized that with the fist, I can actually take a heavy flamer on it. So I can take a heavy bolter and a fist that can, pretty much cripple vehicles. But the cool thing is when he gets shot or he takes a wound on a 6-up, you basically get to take a free shooting attack. So if I go to Overwatch, like if I charge something and take Overwatch while end of the charge phase, hey, I can also fight instead of shooting. Yeah. So I can get a free attack before we even get to the fight phase with the Hellbrute, which actually can work pretty good. But
like just one attack, or like your full range of attacks?
It's your full range of attacks. It's basically, it says you can either shoot or fight as if it was the fight phase, basically. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So.
But do you have to do that instantly, or does that resolve after the charge?
It's instantly. So it's at the end of any phase that it has taken a wound, and then on a 6-up it gets to do that. So it's kind of like a very low chance of that going off, but it's a nice kind of thing to have. And I think all in all, the thing costs 120, 130 points or so for the Hellbrute. So he's T7. And the great thing is if I stick him next to my Noctilith crown, he has a 5-up invuln. So that's kind of that's been their Achilles heel for a while. So the Mutalith kind of I think is going to fit into the list because it'll give my Zangors the ability to reroll their charges. I could do all sorts of other stuff with it, like do mortal wounds to a whole bunch of stuff. It's kind of this big tanky thing, kind of like a distraction Carnifex in a way. So other than that, it's going to be Thousand Suns all day, every day for me.
I'm confused on the Hellbrute. I think GW missed a keyword. It says vehicle Hellbrute. They're missing demon.
Yeah. Well, did you know the Mutalith is not a demon either?
Really?
Yeah.
How is that not a demon?
I don't know.
So
I mean, the Hellbrute, like fluff-wise, is like a possessed dreadnought by a demon.
Yep.
I was just making sure I wasn't misreading that, guys. So.
Even the Forge World Hellforge stuff you'd think are demons, but they're not. They did not give those the demon keyword either. So
they're breaking it.
Yep.
Hey, look, I have before.
I don't see nothing.
Before.
There, now we see it.
You see better?
Yep.
Okay.
What is that?
And after.
Hey.
Wait, hold it. Let me put them up next to each other.
Hey.
And that's why you don't do warp dust, kids.
Yep. Well, I was looking at the base, and I have the scenic base where he's fighting. Was it Logar?
Logan. Good God, man.
Yeah, Loken.
Loken, thank you.
Logar.
I haven't got there yet. Shut up.
Same thing.
There we go.
John, you be quiet.
Yeah, it's not. It's
Okay.
the same thing.
Oh God.
So I do now.
There we go.
Oh, sorry.
I was just saying, there you go. Look, you got the new one, and
So if they touch, won't the universe explode? Since it's old, future you and old you, like two versions of you.
Wait, hold on.
oh no, that was
Wilson's
the
still
other
alive.
dude.
You know that, right?
Oh, hey, now that we got Colin back on, so I got a question for you, Colin.
Okay.
Okay, so out of all the guys on the team, I think you're probably the most versatile with your list because I've seen you use custodes, knights, guard more than the only other person I've seen switch between two different armies was the other Colin. What's your
Dinari too.
What's that?
He also played Dinari.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Yunari. So you're probably one of the most have the most versatile range of armies. You're really good with them. What's your decision process in choosing whenever you're going to go to an event that, hey, I'm going to go with Yunari at this one, and this one I'm going to do knights and whatever. So what's your process, if there is one?
It's a secret.
Or is that? I mean, if it's a secret, you don't have to say anything. Just say secret.
No, it's not that. It's like
He rolls the dice.
Part of it's, I would say, is just kind of analyzing the meta, seeing what's been doing good lately or not, and then to try to decide, do I want to play something like that, or do I want to try to play something I think that could counter all that? So like when I was playing Custodes, that was because at first they were really good. I was running the 17 bike list or whatever, 16, 17 bikes because I thought it was really good because they shot really well, they assaulted really well, and they moved fast. So that's why I wanted to play them then. But then Knights came out and I was like, well, I have to adapt. So I switched the list up. Eventually I added a Castellan so I could fight Knights off with my Custodes. I wanted to go for best Custodes. So that's why I kind of stuck with best Custodes at that point. And I only tested out Yunari for a little bit just to really see how it played at that point. But I just didn't like the interactions of how Yunari played. But I guess more to the point is it's either finding something you like, but also you can be competitive with. So I think that's kind of how I do my decision process.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of different armies that are competitive right now, but like Team Stealer Cult, Tau, Chaos Soup, Imperial Soup, the B-List, and all that. But I haven't played most of those just because it's partially because of armies I actually want to play. I could go and play Yunari all day and win 9 out of 10 games every time, or Tau or Chaos Soup, but they don't interest me as much as other armies do, like Custodes.
Okay. Cool.
I guess to sum it up, it'd be a combination between armies that you would enjoy playing, plus if that can do well.
Awesome.
Nice.
I mean,
Awesome. Thank you.
It totally makes a lot of sense really when it comes down to it, Colin. I mean, if you don't like the way the army plays and you're not enjoying it, you could win, but it's then you're missing that whole fun aspect of playing the game.
Yep.
Right, and that's how I felt when I played Yunari. That's the army I took to SoCal, which I wish I had taken my Custodes list because I would have had more fun playing that. The Yunari list was good. Don't get me wrong; it's a really good list. It's just the fact that I kind of saw after playing 6 games of it, or 6 or 9 or whatever, with some practices, that as long as everything worked out for you with your psychic powers, you just couldn't lose. And like the fact that list hinged so much on psychic powers, plus the broken mechanic of getting extra actions to move and assault and shoot extra times, it just really didn't seem. It just seemed too much to me, I guess.
No, yeah, I definitely get that. I actually have a whole Eldar army sitting right over there to sell because I just don't like how they play. I wasn't having a good time with it.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I don't want to spend all my time painting it if I'm not having a good time.
Right, and it's like Also, I guess it kind of depends what kind of play style you like, because each army plays differently too. Whether it be elite armies or horde armies or shooting armies, assault armies, and everyone definitely has a play style they enjoy more so than others. Like I got those orcs, like I got that orc army, and orcs are really good codex, hands down, and they're a good army, but I didn't enjoy pushing around that many models. I definitely could have probably gotten used to it and practiced and gotten really well with it, but it just wasn't as fun to me to move around all those models. But
makes sense.
Talk about a drastic change. Custodes, orcs. Multiply your army by like 1,000.
That was definitely a shock to go from playing from like 40 model army to a like 200 model army.
God.
When I used to do Space Wolves, I like doing the whole massive blood claw, but I like taking the vehicles because you start off with just the vehicles, right? Okay, cool. And then you're like, okay, it's going quick, and then you hit the blobs. You're like, okay, last 2 turns, here we go.
And for David, unless anybody else got something to ask, I know that, or at least for the longest time, I don't think Thousand Suns, and it's nothing against Thousand Suns, have kind of were never like the most popular army. I mean, really,
they weren't good. They weren't good at all.
What's that?
They were not good.
Okay,
not on the table.
Yeah. So, what was it that drew you to them? Because you do an amazing job with them when you're playing games. So, what drew you to it? Kind of knowing that they weren't a great army.
So my first game of Warhammer was actually in 3rd edition, and I was a lot younger, and my first army was Dark Eldar, and we were talking a little bit before about play the army that you really like and enjoy, and I think the thing that burned me out of the game was the fact that I did not enjoy playing Dark Eldar, even though they had some stuff to them that was really cool.
Yeah.
And so I ended up just selling my army and getting out of the hobby for years, and my job in Houston was right near the office, was right near a Games Workshop, just randomly. And I kept seeing it when we go out to lunch. And then one day I just decided, I'm going in there. I'm just seeing what's going on these days. And, you don't walk out of there without stuff. So I end up walking out. But I think the thing that I always remembered was that, when I was playing, I always wanted to play chaos, and I loved the aesthetic of chaos and the sorcerers and the old, some of the old school artwork that they had, where they're just like decked out in all these spikes, and they got these massive like 4 staves, and they just look awesome. And when I got back into it, I was just like, well, this time I'm gonna play what I wanted to play, and that didn't have anything to do with the rules. It was just they looked cool, and ironically, it was like meant to be, because about a month later, the Wrath of Magnus comes out, and they've released Magnus and the new Rubric Marines and everything else. And I actually was away. I think it was over Thanksgiving, and I was away on vacation. And I come back, and they've dropped all the new models and everything. And I'm kind of like, great, I'm 100% hooked now. So, I basically just ended up getting more into like tournament and competitive play, just liking the aspect of, we had a couple people at the store that played in tournaments, and they'd come in every now and then. And, I had really fun games against them. And, the next thing I know, Colin's dragging me out to tournaments, and, we're having a good time at Alamo last year. And, it's, I will say it took a lot of work and a lot of practice, and a lot of trial and error with Thousand Suns. To just kind of learn the rules. They're probably one of the harder armies, because they rely on a big bag of tricks. It's GW, to their credit, did a good job designing the rules for them. They're very true to like who they are. Using psychic powers, and you basically have to win with psychic powers. So when you hit like a Yunari or an Eldar army, yeah, it's painful, because they have the ability to shut you down.
Yeah.
But you just kind of learn along the way, kind of, what works against what. okay, I can throw, like Colin put a Calexis Assassin out in one of our games when I had tons of smite on the board, and I remember realizing, well, that just shut my whole army down, and I had no way to do anything. And so you learn through mistakes. You learn through losing games. So the way I look at last year was I was learning how to actually play the army, and every time I lost a game, I always had to stand there for a minute and just kind of like, in some cases, I literally had a notebook and I was writing down the things I know I did wrong, and had I made a better decision, this would have worked. Or I find things like, you need an answer to the Calexis Assassin. So, oh, look, Flamers of Tzeentch can auto hit, and those tend to do really good against Calexis Assassins.
Yep.
So, stuff like that you just, I think the best thing for me was just having a notebook, getting into it, and then being able to write stuff down and say, oh, here's all my mistakes. And then if I go to play a match against another army or a good player that I've had trouble playing against, I have a page written down where I can just flip to it and say, okay, refresh my memory. What did I not do last time that I need to do this time? And, what was the mistake I made that I'm not going to make that mistake this time? So like coming out of Dallas, I'm not going to forget reanimation protocols, because I lost a game I could have won because of that. So
okay. Awesome. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
Guys in chat, do you have any questions for our seasoned tournament players? Since you guys probably ain't watching chat, I'll read them off.
So, I mean, y'all have any questions for me and like how I play in tournaments? I mean, come on, guys. I mean, I did go to a major, over in Gibraltar, but that's cool, guys.
Yeah, you know what? You didn't even talk about that, because the last time we had the show, he clocked out because of probably the time difference, and I'm sure he's exhausted.
Yeah.
How did it go?
I was exhausted, but so just in general. So the reason why I wanted to go to SM Battle Reports over in Gibraltar is for the fact that they run no retreat, and these are like very elite tournaments to where you get amazing painted armies, great players who are like the UK and over in Europe has some great players. So you get the people that are at top level, I'm just going to call them hobbyists, because they're not only good players, but their armies are painted beautifully too. And then on top of that, you have SM Battle Reports, who does run a battle report channel, and they do everything as picture, like the old school White Dwarf 3rd edition ones. So the terrain and the armies are painted spectacularly. So you're playing on amazing terrain, usually against really amazing. Every game I had was against amazing opponents that were there for one reason only: to roll dice, talk about the hobby, and just have fun doing it. Even the top tables, they were laughing and giggling, dude. It got intense, just because top tables do get intense, sometimes where they're both concentrating. But the armies were painted to a top tier. Like every single game I played, I was just like, can I see your models? And I would sit there and like look at their models and be like, that's amazing, dude. And we'd have a fun game and play. And it was just so for me, it was just a good tournament to go to, just for the fact that it was kind of like the top echelon of the hobby, really, when it comes down to it for me. It was just I'm more of a painter. I like the painting aspect of the hobby. I love playing, but with my current life and with kids, it's playing doesn't always come there, but painting is always available because it's right here. And so to see all these amazing painted armies, talk to all these guys, and it was amazing. I got to meet so many people that I've seen on the web, because really, just the Warhammer community is so big now that you see these people post a lot, and you're like, oh, you really feel like you may actually know them because y'all post in the same groups, y'all talk about the same things and everything, and then you finally get to meet someone in person. So that was amazing too as well. But it was an amazing experience. I went 2-4, which wasn't bad for my Dark Angels army, because y'all all saw my list. It was not competitive. I took 15 Terminators, 5 were Deathwing Knights, the other were just normal Terminators. I had a Redeemer, but I managed to. I was on some of the lower tables when I pulled out my wins, but I was able to pull out some wins that I probably shouldn't have been able to pull out. And just because, some stuff works in your favor and some stuff doesn't. I know in general, my expectations are that when I go play in a tournament, I don't expect my dice to roll above average. So you have to know your play style when you go to tournaments and have expectations. And I expected my dice to roll poorly, and they did. So I would definitely overcommit a lot of stuff that should have not taken 10 Terminators to kill, but maybe 5. But I wanted to make sure that I killed something, like a Knight. So one game I faced a Knight, and so I ran my Deathwing Knights, as well as my Deathwing Terminators into the Knight. It was overkill, but I killed the Knight. So that was
so.
For me.
So before we move on, a few people have actually some tournament questions. But
Cool.
before we move on, somebody asked, how'd you like the Gibraltar Army composition rules?
So for the armor composition rules, the one thing I do like 1750. I think it's kind of a UK and everything like that, but at 1750 points, you can get a game in. Most of the games you should finish in 2.5 hours. Even if someone's slow playing, you could probably get them done. But the thing I like about it is that when I was building a list, and I think when a lot of even the top players over there were building their lists, they had to think about it a lot more because it's like, do I want to really take that Castellan or I don't? Because you don't have an extra 250 points to play with. So it kind of limits on what you have to take. And then what I did like about the army composition rules is since they made it single faction, it really made people, except for Knights and Chaos could bring, like demons and stuff to kind of incorporate in because of just how Chaos is written. But the Knights, you couldn't take a house. So you could either make a Questor Mechanicus or like Imperial Knight, but you couldn't use like House Raven strats and stuff like that. So the Knights kind of became just kind of like this normality. Like it wasn't, there's a Knight over there, but I don't have to worry about them popping House Raven and doing all this other stuff. So I can just focus in on it just being a normal Knight and not worrying about all the other stuff that come with strats and stuff. So the Knights, because of them doing that, it kind of made taking a Knight not as good. It kind of made it more streamlined. But you could still take a whole Knight army, and they had people with whole Knight armies that did really well because in a single faction, Knights win like 65% of their games. So the Chaos was good. But playing single faction, you found out really how strong Drukhari are as a single faction army as well as Tau. Drukhari are amazing as a single faction army. Colin, were you saying something about it?
Yeah, they're definitely the strongest single codex in the game, I think.
Yeah. Like, I think at the top table, there was, throughout the time as I was watching it, it was Drukhari, then like Drukhari and maybe a couple down more Drukhari. And then you had the rare ones in there, which were like Cal was in there. And then you had the Space Marine player who he was playing Blood Angels. I don't know how he was doing it. He must have been a brilliant player. I mean, he did have 3 repulsors, and then 3 units of 5 intercessors.
That's awesome.
And he had 2 Redemptor dreadnoughts, and then a Smash captain, and then like a Primaris captain. And that was his entire army. And the only thing he had problems with, he went 4-2. He couldn't beat Drukhari. But everyone else he played, he was able to beat. But he was saying that he had problems with the mobility. But his army was one of the most beautifully painted armies there too as well. But it was kind of interesting to see that because that's that diamond in the rough army. You're looking at it and you're like, how are you winning? And he was. So, but no, I think just the army composition, it makes it, when you do that kind of stuff, it changes up the meta dramatically. But I think for single faction, I talked to Steven and them over there at SM Battle Reports, and they think about the next one. They may make it single faction only, no allies, like Knight allies. So it'll just be like, you have Chaos Soup and stuff like that. Probably I talked to them and they're like, yeah, you'd be able to take assassins and stuff and summon them. But it was very interesting to see a different type of format. And the missions were extremely different too. It was more ETC or just kind of how they run it. So you played a Dawn of War mission. I mean, hold on. Eternal War mission was the primary. And then your secondary mission was actually you playing Maelstrom. And then your tertiary was playing Linebreaker, Line Breaker, Slay the Warlord, and First Strike. So for me, I have a hard time focusing on ITC where it's pretty easy. I pick this, this, and this. And so I'm like, okay, I got to remember that I'm playing Eternal War and I have to go over here and I have to grab this. And then on top of that, I'm drawing cards. So it took me by the third game, I got used to it. We never do any practice games. So the first 2 games, I was just kind of like, I was scatterbrained everywhere. So if you ever, that's another tip of advice. If you ever go to tournament, play the mission pack, please. Don't play the mission pack ever not playing it. It's not. And I hope that answers your question, guys. So I'm done.
All right. Andrew had a question. Says, how do you use rubrics?
How do you use rubrics?
And then we got one for you, Colin, after this one.
So I use rubrics when I did run them. I think one of the more successful lists I had was I had 2 battalions with rubric Marines as your troop choices. And then I used the drills, the Forge World Hellforged termite drills to either deep strike them or give them the ability to have some mobility. And then the drills themselves were a little bit better than like a rhino. But even going back before I even used the drills, I would throw them in rhinos. And the key there was that you have 5 rubric Marines that can go in the rhino. And then you can also cram a couple sorcerers, your HQ sorcerers in there as well. And so by doing that, let's say you take Magnus in your list, one of the things John was talking about was he kept going second in his games. And if that, in most of the tournament scenarios, you are trying to go first, well, you're going to get your better odds by having a lower drop count. And I think one of the things Thousand Sons does do well, being an elite army, is you can actually get your drop count down so low that you can get maybe to like 4 or 5 drops for 2 battalions worth of an army, just by having your transports hold enough. And that's kind of the key with the termite drills, is they hold 12 over the 10, meaning you can fit 2 squads of rubrics in it with 2 HQ choices as well, which means all but one of my battalion selections basically went down in 1 drop, and that gives you that advantage to try and go first. So and then once they're on the table, rubrics from what I found, they struggle because most people will know to shoot them with multi-damage guns. I think that was something we talked about a little bit. Putting them in cover can help a little bit. I try to do that as much as I can. I try to hide them out of line of sight. I try to put them in positions where they're really just going to hold an objective, and mortars are not going to do anything to them. Like there's very few mortars in the game that they're really worried about at all. And then for psychic powers on them, I basically I think Doombolt is a good thing to take on them, and here's why. Doombolt will give you a 24-inch range with it, but you have the ability for a command point to boost their psychic cast by 2. So you just have them in range of like another rubric squad and a sorcerer or something like that. And for 1 command point, you can cast Doombolt with a +2 to your cast, which gives you a much better chance of actually, doing something with it other than, the 1 damage smite. And that's the other way I kind of look at the rubrics, is I try to put spells on them when I do have them that have the potential to do more than 1 damage, like Doombolt. Then you also have Tzeentch's Firestorm, which is a little bit harder to cast than Smite, but at least you have the opportunity to do more than 1 mortal wound with it. And those are the kind of things you can do. But in general, with rubrics, you just have to keep them from getting shot. That's the key. So putting them in a transport, hiding them, or making sure that, hey, the transport dies before they even get out, and that leaves them to the very last minute before they're actually on the table able to get shot. So
all right, that's good. It's awesome. We got one for Colin. It's a 2-part, so let's see. Colin says he's playing Shadizo said he's playing his first ITC this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
and he's bringing custodes and guard. Sounds familiar. Any advice? Also, Captain Kuyo, which we know, he says, what would you suggest for someone who's going to their first GT? So that'd be for both of you. But for the custode and guard, what do you suggest?
It really depends. I'd have to kind of know what his list is. The guard is definitely a smart allies for the custodes, as they custodes are really command point heavy, but to get any amount of command points with custodes, it's really expensive to do so. So having the guard battalion at command points is really solid. So it's really smart play by him to do that. It has the points for the assassin. I would probably try to put that into his list as well, just because if you go up against like David's Thousand Sons, custodes are going to have a rough time because they don't deal with mortal wounds too well. So being able to take that Calexis and try to mitigate that would be really helpful. But it kind of depends if he's running bikes or infantry-based custodes. It doesn't say in the chat what he's running, does it?
Nope, just his first ITC, custodes, and guard.
Right.
Just any advice, just probably general.
Make sure to keep. Same thing what David's saying with the rubrics. Try to keep your custodes out of line of sight as much as possible. If you're running a -1 to hit banner, try to keep them in range of that as well to really increase their survivability. Something I always like to do was to send my custodian guard squads up really fast, but always inside of cover and out of line of sight, so that way my jet bike captains could run around the backfield behind them and not get shot, and then go around and shoot stuff and kill whatever they need to without being able to get shot back. So those are some of my tips. And then your best way to deal with knights is probably going to be custodian wardens. And if you need extra firepower, I would probably say ally in some tank commanders with battle cannons and heavy bolters. If you're running more foot melee custodes and not any jet bikes, that would be my advice with the guard. And as well as, like the typical mortars and wyverns would be good as well for anti-infantry chaff clearing. And what did you say? So that's my first part of the answer. What did he say? What was the second question?
So it's basically for both you guys. Said, what would you suggest for someone going to their first GT?
Well, first practice. Make sure you know your list really well, inside and out. Make sure to bring your codex, your dice, your tape measure. I almost said templates. I don't have those anymore. As well as copies of your list, and not only go over your own codex, but go over other armies' codex, because even if people like even people with other armies will mess up occasionally. They'll mess their rules up. So, and most of the time they'll do it intentionally, but it's good to know rules as well. And I'm not saying like pour over every inch of every codex, but like there's obvious really good strategies for all the other codex. So just at least know how those main key strategies for all the different codexes work. That would probably be my main advice. As well, make sure you get a good night's sleep and you're well rested for the GT, and drink lots of water throughout the day, and try to sit down when you can, because you will get tired after playing through 2 games. So that third game will be really key if you've based off whether you stayed hydrated and you've sat down some or not, or otherwise your legs will start to feel a little sore. David, what do you have to add?
So I have lost Colin's audio, so there's a chance that I might repeat what Colin is saying here. So I think he just threw it over to me, just kind of doing my best. Yeah. So hopefully I don't repeat what he just said. But if you're going to your first GT, my suggestions would be to just have as much fun as you can. Don't put pressure on yourself to try and win. Worry about that later. It takes so many games to get to the point where you're winning consistently at tournaments that you have to kind of, in your first probably couple tournaments, just go through the motions. You will start to learn, like, how the games actually are played at a tournament versus your weekend competitive pickup game against, that guy, that always gives you a good game. I think the difference is there's a lot more mental games going on in tournaments at that, when you get to that super competitive level, you realize how much people are thinking about what you're going to do or what you want to do with your army. And you need to be doing the same thing. But that's all what you get to. And the only way to get there is to just feel it out, go through the games, play them, get a sense of how you can play them. The other thing I would say is learn people's names, make friends when you're there, just kind of say, hey, where are you from? Just getting to know some of the other players that are there, I thought was pretty cool, because now that I go to other tournaments, there's a lot of people that I've had games with, and I might have never had a second game with them, but I remember that one game I had with them, and I see them at all these tournaments. And so I make it an effort to, stop by and say hello to them, that kind of thing. And it almost becomes like a reunion kind of thing when you go to these, like Dallas was cool because we just are seeing a bunch of these folks for the first time that were in other parts of the state that we haven't seen in, months or, however long since the last tournament. So it almost gets to be kind of like a fun event just to kind of meet people, that, hey, I remember we had this game, so we have this thing we bonded about. And then the last thing I would say is if you are serious about playing as best as you can, for me, that's about sleep. So I always try that first night not to go out really late and drink, or have a really late night with, all my friends or anything like that. I think I make it an effort to be kind of like the grandpa and try and get back to my hotel room and, actually get to sleep. I made those mistakes early on, even though I had a great time going out. I think it's awesome. I made those mistakes, and the next day I was merging my movement and shooting and psychic phase all into one phase, and it was terrible. It just did not go good. So I would say just focus on getting rest. And, if you get a chance to sit down during the tournament, take the opportunity to sit down. Otherwise your back and your feet are going to kill you. So yeah, other than that, I mean, it's really just have fun, and you'll get what what you want out of it that way. So.
All right, we got time for one more question here. Tony asks, should he play monofaction to a GT?
I don't see why not.
It's really up to you if you want to or not. I mean, with the new faction changes, there's going to be a lot of people doing so. So if you want to go for best faction and for the ITC, then definitely go ahead and do it. I know there's going to be a lot of other people that are going to be doing that as well. So I think you'll still have a really good time doing so.
And I would tell them too. Yeah, man, if you like an army and let's say you like Custodes and you want to play pure Custodes, play pure Custodes, because I guarantee if you really want to play Custodes, you'll have a lot more fun playing those 5 games in the GT with pure Custodes than you will if I need to take an Imperial Guard detachment to get more command points and I need to bring this. You may not like the way those other units play, so you're just like, man, at the end of it, you could feel like, man, I really wish I just would have played my Custodes army because I love playing it. So, because really, at the end of the day, I mean, if it's like your first tournament or you're not one of those really great players and you're not going to be on the top tables, you're going to be mid-tier or bottom tier, the one thing you want to remember is what you really want to get out of that tournament is, A, you want to do as well as you can and win as many games as you can, or you do that, but it's about having fun and making friends and stuff like that, because you'll remember that a lot more than you probably will if, man, I could have gone 3-2 and I went 2-3, but you're like, man, I had 5 great games. I met Colin, this guy from Dallas. He was amazing. Or, or I met this guy named Daryl or something, and you really click. So, I mean, you may remember that a lot more than you will that you lost or you didn't have fun playing your army. So,
and
sorry.
Well, no, TJ, it's great you bring it up because I went to DEPCON, was it 2013 or 14 when I moved here to Texas? And I'll never forget the kid I played was running a full Black Templar army. and he was part of the Adepticon, Row the Adepticon. So he spent the money, and he was from, I believe he was from the UK as well. And he had to have been young, either in the teens or I think he was in his teens. But I'll never forget that he was having so much fun playing a Black Templar only army. And was it competitive compared to what I was playing with Space Wolves and Knights at the time when the Knights first came out? Not so much, but I enjoyed playing them. I'll never forget that because we just had fun, laughing the whole time. And it was great. It made me feel good.
There was a guy at Dallas this past weekend that I played, and it probably was one of the best games that I had the most fun with. And I think it was the Catachan player. He had like his Rough Riders on the Raptors with like the sunglasses and everything. He had Sly Marbo. I mean, like, and I'm sitting there laughing, like I'm having such a great time because he's using all these different mechanics, and it's like, yes. You're playing. I'm getting to interact with your army, and this is great. You're doing these weird things. Like I didn't know you could do that. It's great. So,
and there's the people that stand out. I mean, the tournament players stand out because they make the way the level is and the competitiveness. But you'll never forget players that bring armies like that. They never will.
Yeah, we have the Shiner Marines. The guys who show up with the Shiner Marines to all the Texas events, those guys are pretty cool. It's the same list, like drop pods and Space Marines, and they're all painted up like the beer bottles for Shiner. And,
see them at LVO?
Were they there?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
They completely both painted up brand new armies. I'm like, no Shiner armies? What the hell's going on here, guys? And they go, me and my brother had a challenge. We decided we'd paint up all brand new armies, and I was just looking at them like, but the Shiner armies not here. What's going on? And he's just like, I know. And I was just like, okay, well, let me know how you do. But it's one of those things. It's like you see those people, and like they're always drinking and having a good time. So you're like, okay, cool. They're just here to have fun too. So
yeah, everybody knows the Shiner Marines. I mean, you go to a Texas tournament, they are always there.
Tony said he played UTJ 2 years ago at LVO. Best game ever.
Tony, what did he play? What did Tony play?
His full name is Antony Ramos.
God, I'm trying to remember his army.
What did you play 2 years ago? Was it at World Leaders or?
No, if it was 2 years, so 2 years ago was World Eaters.
Yeah, it was World Eaters.
Yeah, it was World Eaters. That was. So it's not this year. It's not last year. It's the year before the first time I went. So yeah, I played World Eaters, and yeah, he probably stomped the living crap out of me. But it was probably part of the game.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's right. You never played. He said he played Eldar.
Yeah. Oh God, Tony Ramos. Hold on.
So you played World Eaters?
No, hold on. No. He was that the gentleman from Hawaii? Because was he talking about him being from Hawaii?
Yeah. He's from Hawaii.
That was an amazing game. Yes, I do remember that game. That was came down to the wire. I think I got out of his range of his Dark Reapers, so they couldn't shoot me anymore because we were playing Dawn of War, so it was a long deployment. So I was like, "What are the range on those things again?" And I moved all my stuff out of range except for my last cannons because I was like,
"Run away!"
And that game I remember, it was an amazing game. We actually came down to the last turn, and I barely pulled it out. But other than that, man, but that's like I remember that now that someone said he was like Eldar. I'm like, I remember the game because it was an amazing game. So that's the thing you remember is those amazing games. And I was actually doing pretty well at LVO that year too. I went like 3-3. It was amazing.
All right, guys. So looks like it for the questions, and it's getting pretty late, and definitely our guests are looking kind of tired, as well as all of us as well. So, around the room, anybody got anything else before we close?
No, I'm good. It's a good talk show.
Yeah, it's a great show tonight, guys. I appreciate David and Colin coming on and giving some good insights. So.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys coming on. It's definitely cool to have some professional tournament play advice.
Age of Sigmar, go. That's all I got to say.
You guys got anything? No? All right.
Yeah.
As
See you
always,
guys in
special
San
thanks
Antonio.
to our Patreon supporters. Thank you guys so much, as well as everyone who participated in chat, even the guys who were spamming Akon, which I had to actually Google what that was. I didn't know that was a singer. I recognize the song, so I just didn't know that was the singer.
Oh, I do have something.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
When's your next show, John?
I know. I'm sorry. Tomorrow, 8 p.m., I'll be live streaming part 6 of the 30-day challenge.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
Shameless.
And everyone who's local listening, we moved the tournament to this Saturday. It's not this Saturday, but next Saturday, right?
No,
Third Saturday?
This Saturday.
No, third Saturday.
Yeah, the third Saturday. This is the third Saturday, right?
It's this Saturday, Jonathan.
Yeah, okay, this Saturday. Oh,
Yeah.
man. Time's
So
just flying
next
by.
Saturday is Cult of Paint in Houston for the most amazing paint class you'll ever take.
Yeah, the fourth Saturday, we had to move our tournament because we're having a Magic release as well as the Cult of Paint is coming for their painting class, which is going to be amazing for a 3-day class period. So we're even buying new chairs for the event.
Wow.
Yeah.
Comfortable chairs.
Comfortable chairs, yeah, metal and comfortable.
You're not gonna do the whole like the army chairs, you know?
Nope. We're gonna buy some those banquet chairs, the stackable ones.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you guys, you know, I want to, at least promote Warzone for all the different games. You know, if you guys are looking at Houston, we are doing the Warzone Houston, and was it John, July
13th and 14th.
There's still tickets, so Horse Heresy, Age of Sigmar, 40K, Guild Ball, Infinity.
Yep. It's going to be amazing, guys. So if y'all do want to come to Houston, definitely come. You'll get to meet Jonathan. I'm not sure if y'all want to meet me, but I'll be there as well. And you can also have a great game with the FNPro team, but just to let you know, they're pretty good guys. So you may not be on the winning side of it. So.
They're good guys and good players.
Yes.
They are.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for being on tonight, and everyone have a good night.
Good night.
Guys.
Right.